when Sean Connery first walked onto the screen as James Bond in Dr. No. No, 1962, audiences had no idea they were witnessing the birth of the most enduring spy franchise in cinema. But behind the smooth tuxedos and shaken martinis was chaos. Exploding sets, costumes that barely existed, actors in danger, and a villain's lair built on a shoestring budget. Tonight, we're unsealing 20 weird facts about Dr. No. Secrets the studio never expected you to know. And stick around, because at the end, I'll reveal a bonus fact that could have changed Bond history forever. 1. Bond's budget gamble. When Dr. No hit production, it wasn't backed by a Hollywood giant. Its budget? Just $1 million. A shoestring compared to other spy thrillers of the era. Producers risked everything, betting that an unknown Scottish actor and a pulp novel could make waves. Sets were reused, costumes recycled, and even cars were borrowed from locals. Yet, this gamble paid off. The film grossed nearly $60 million worldwide, transforming a modest investment into a franchise-launching jackpot. Against all odds, a cheap experiment became the foundation of the most profitable spy series in history. 2. Connery's rough edges. Sean Connery may be the ultimate Bond, but in 1961 he was raw. A former bodybuilder with rough manners, Connery walked too heavily and spoke too bluntly for producers. Director Terence Young took him under his wing, personally teaching him how to move, dine, and wear a suit with elegance. Young even sent him to Savile Row tailors and casinos to absorb sophistication. By the time cameras rolled, Connery had transformed into a suave secret agent. His polished style wasn't natural. It was drilled into him, shaping the Bond persona the world still admires today. 3. The Spider Terror. One of Connery's most convincing moments of fear wasn't acting at all. In the infamous bedroom scene, a tarantula crawls slowly up Bond's arm. Connery despised spiders and demanded a stunt double. In the final cut, the close-ups show the spider on a sheet of glass laid over Connery, with his reactions spliced in. His genuine discomfort made the scene one of the most chilling in the film. Audiences thought Bond was unflappable, but the actor behind him was frozen with dread, proving sometimes real fear makes the best movie magic. 4. A title. Almost lost before production, United Artists worried that Dr. No sounded too obscure. Executives floated alternate titles like Commander Jamaica to make it sound more exotic and marketable. Ian Fleming, furious, insisted the original novel's name stay. He believed that mystery was key to Bond's appeal. Eventually, Fleming won the argument, and history preserved Dr. Number. Had the studio succeeded, we might remember Bond's first outing under a clunky, forgettable title. Instead, a simple, sinister name cemented itself in cinema lore, and audiences met the shadowy villain who defined the franchise's formula of larger-than-life adversaries. Robert. Honey Rider's dubbed voice. Ursula Andress's emergence from the sea in a white bikini became one of cinema's most iconic entrances, but the voice audiences heard wasn't hers. Producers felt her Swiss-German accent was too heavy, so actress Nikki van der Zyl dubbed every line. This was common in the 1960s productions, but it shocked Andress, who believed her natural voice would work. Despite the dubbing, her role skyrocketed her to stardom, and she remains one of Bond's most recognizable Bond girls. Ironically, her fame was built on a mix of her beauty and someone else's voice. 6. The Dragon Tank Hoax. Jamaican locals cast as extras genuinely believed in Dr. No's Dragon, an armored flame-throwing tank. Many were so frightened they hesitated to appear in scenes where the beast approached. For them, It wasn't a prop. It was myth come alive. The production leaned into the legend, never correcting the belief. When the fiery contraption rolled onto screen, audiences too bought into its menace. Behind the metal shell, however, was a slow-moving, awkwardly rigged vehicle. Movie magic transformed clumsy engineering into terror, proving that imagination often sells a monster better than mechanics ever could. 7. Censored in the USA. When Dr. No was released in America, several lines and shots vanished. Censors felt Bond's sexual innuendos were too risque for U.S. audiences in 1962. Scenes involving violence, including Quarrel's fiery death, were trimmed for sensitivity. Critics still found the film bold, but British viewers knew they had seen a harder-edged version. What America got was a slightly sanitized Bond, stripped of some of his ruthlessness. Ironically, the edits only stoked curiosity, as whispers spread about a forbidden cut more daring than what made it across the Atlantic. 8. Bond's iconic line improvised,
I'm looking for Mr. James Bond. What name should I...
It's the most famous introduction in film history. Yet the delivery wasn't scripted to be so iconic. Connery, nervous during the casino scene, repeated his name with a pause, mimicking the rhythm of the poker table. The casual, almost offhand style electrified audiences, instantly defining Bond's confidence. The line was never the same again. Writers leaned into it, making it a staple of every film that followed. One nervous improvisation became the franchise's most enduring catchphrase. A reminder that sometimes cinematic legends happen by accident. 9. Budget gold painted sets. Ken Adam, the visionary production designer, made brilliance out of nothing. With only scraps of wood, plywood, and gold paint, he created Dr. No's lairs and laboratories. The sets looked futuristic and expensive, but were dirt cheap. Adam's bold, angular designs later became hallmarks of Bond films, inspiring villain bases for decades. What audiences thought were lavish sets were held together with nails, paint, and clever lighting. Hollywood had never seen pulp villainy staged with such flair, and Adam's ability to stretch every pound turned a low-budget film into a visual revolution. 10. Quarrel's fiery end. Bond's ally Quarrel meets a gruesome fate, engulfed by the flames of Dr. No's dragon. But filming this sequence nearly burned the stuntman alive. The flame jets roared hotter than expected, singeing his clothes and forcing emergency crews to rush in. Connery later admitted the scene unsettled him, knowing how close the stunt came to disaster. The sequence survived, brutal and shocking for 1962 audiences. Quarrel's death symbolized the danger of Bond's world, one where even allies weren't safe, and one mistake behind the camera could have turned fiction into real tragedy. 11. Casting battles over Bond. Before Sean Connery, producers scouted some of the biggest names in cinema. Cary Grant was the first choice, but he refused to commit to multiple films. David Niven, Richard Burton, and even Roger Moore were floated before Connery secured the role. Fleming himself doubted Connery at first, calling him too rough. Yet after seeing the first rushes, Fleming changed his mind and later tailored Bond's backstory and novels to match Connery's Scottish roots. The role could have gone to anyone, but destiny picked Connery, and the rest was cinematic history. 12. Dr. No's mysterious hands. Joseph Wiseman, who played the villain, wore oversized metal prosthetic hands. On screen they looked sinister, but in reality they barely worked. The gloves made it nearly impossible to grip props, open doors, or even gesture naturally. Crew members often had to reset scenes because Wiseman's mechanical fingers wouldn't cooperate. Despite the clumsiness, The awkwardness added to the character's alien menace. His stiff, jerky motions felt otherworldly, convincing audiences this was a man deformed by radiation. What began as a prop problem accidentally made Doctor no creepier and more unforgettable. 13. The steel table trick. When Bond is strapped to Dr. No's radiation table, it looks like an inescapable death trap. In reality, the entire escape was achieved with a simple camera cut. Connery wasn't chained to steel beams at all, the clamps were loose, and the table's mechanics didn't even function. Editors stitched shots together to create the illusion of struggle. The tension came entirely from editing and Connery's performance. It was cheap trickery that audiences never questioned. One of Bond's first great escapes was pure cinematic sleight of hand. 14. A censored bikini. Ursula Andress's white bikini shocked 1962 audiences. Two-piece swimsuits were rare in mainstream cinema, and the boldness led to censorship debates across Europe. Some countries even considered banning the film for indecency. Ironically, the bikini later sold for over $60,000 at auction, proving its legendary status. The costume cemented Andress as the first Bond girl archetype, blending allure with danger. What was once scandalous is now iconic, a reminder of how cultural taboos can turn into timeless moments of cinema history. 15. Bond's car switcheroo. Bond's famous chase car in Dr. No wasn't an Aston Martin. It was a modest Sunbeam Alpine. The production didn't even buy it. They borrowed it from a local Jamaican resident because the budget couldn't stretch to luxury vehicles. Despite its simplicity, the car chase thrilled audiences, laying groundwork for the spectacular chases to come. Later films would cement Bond's association with Aston Martins and gadgets, but his very first cinematic drive came from borrowed wheels. The legend of Bond's cars began not with luxury, but with frugal improvisation. 16. The casino that wasn't. Bond's glamorous introduction in a smoky casino wasn't filmed in Monte Carlo or London high society. It was a small, cheaply decorated set in Pinewood Studios. With clever lighting, mirrors, and extras in evening gowns, the illusion of wealth and class was complete. Connery's line delivery,
I'm looking for Mr. James Bond.
sold the fantasy. The truth, the casino was just plywood walls and hired furniture. Hollywood magic transformed humble studio corners into cinematic history. What mattered wasn't the backdrop, but the presence of Connery, who embodied sophistication no budget could buy. 17. Villain voice swap fans often forget that Joseph Wiseman's voice, as Doctor No, wasn't actually his own. His lines were overdubbed by another actor in post-production to give him a colder, more menacing tone. The decision frustrated Wiseman, but producers believed his natural cadence lacked intimidation. Ironically, audiences accepted the seamless blend, and Dr. No's eerie voice became one of the film's defining traits. The dubbing trick ensured the villain sounded as monstrous as his mechanical hands looked. In Bond's world, even voices could be manufactured weapons. 18. A radioactive river. Filming in Jamaica wasn't all paradise. When shooting near Kingston, some extras complained of skin rashes and irritation after wading in local rivers. The crew half-joked it was radioactive water, echoing the film's plot. In reality, it was pollution and high mineral content that caused the irritation. Still, the story spread among cast and crew, adding a ghostly chill to scenes filmed in the tropical waters. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Bond's first mission about radiation hazards was filmed in waters that weren't exactly safe themselves. 19. The premiere shock when Dr. No premiered in London, critics didn't know what to make of it. Some praised it as stylish, but others blasted it as vulgar, violent, and far too sexual for British cinema. The Daily Mail called it unfit for children, while others dismissed it as pulp trash. Yet audiences flocked to it, captivated by Connery's charisma and Ursula Andress's unforgettable entrance. The controversy only fueled ticket sales, proving that shock value and spectacle could draw crowds. What critics scorned, audiences celebrated, launching Bond into global superstardom. 20. The start of a formula doctor. No didn't just succeed. It wrote the blueprint. Gun barrel openings, seductive Bond girls, exotic locations, villainous lairs, and gadgets all found their seeds here. Though the film lacked later extravagance, its DNA shaped every Bond film to come. What began as a small, scrappy production birthed a formula that's been copied for 6 decades. The success was proof that cinema audiences craved a mix of danger, style, and fantasy. From this modest beginning, an empire of tuxedos, martinis, and explosions was born. Bonus fact: the Bond who never was. Ian Fleming never imagined Sean Connery as his hero. His personal pick for Bond was actor Richard Todd, a decorated war veteran and film star. Fleming admired his naval service and thought Todd embodied the suave spy of his novels. But Todd's schedule clashed, and the role slipped away. Connery stepped in, redefining Bond forever. Fleming eventually warmed to him, even adding Scottish roots to Bond in later novels. One casting conflict rewrote cinema history and turned an unknown into the most famous secret agent of all time. Dr. No wasn't just a film. It was the unlikely gamble that built a global empire. From a borrowed car to a $1 million lie, every weird fact shows how chaos gave birth to legend. If you enjoyed uncovering these secrets, smash that subscribe button, share with fellow Bond fans, and remember, sometimes the greatest spy stories aren't on screen, but hidden behind the camera.